They told me it was just a sinkhole. But when I saw the gouges in the soil, long, deliberate claw marks, I knew something was wrong. My neighbor Karen, the HOA president, was hiding something far more twisted. I'd just moved into Willow Creek Estates, the kind of quiet cul-de-sac everyone brags about. I wanted peace, no drama, no endless rule books. Karen arrived on day one, pearly smile, crisp outfit, HOA packet tucked under her arm. "You'll need to join the association right away," she said, eyes sweeping my lawn like she was inspecting a cell. I said politely that I wasn't interested. I'd keep my place tidy, but I wasn't signing up to pay monthly for made-up rules. That's when the headaches began. First, a noise complaint, then a notice about grass height. I shrugged it off, and until my mail started vanishing, I put up a camera. One night, the footage showed her. Karen on my porch, gloves on, mask lowered, slipping my Amazon box into a bag like a petty shoplifter. I called her out. She just smiled, syrupy sweet. "Oh, I was checking to make sure it wasn't stolen," she cooed. The next morning, and half of my backyard was missing. A yawning crater, over 10 feet deep, had opened in the middle of the lawn. The fence was wrecked, a tree uprooted, and at the bottom lay wooden planks, nails, and what looked disturbingly like bear traps. Real traps. I ran inside and dialed 911. Officers came, glanced at the pit, and shrugged. "Could be erosion," they said. "Do you have any enemies?" I had one obvious suspect, Karen, but without solid proof, no clear footage, no witness. It was just a hunch. That night I sat by the window glued to the dark. At 2:13 a.m., she returned, gloves and shovel in hand, accompanied by a woman I didn't recognize. They laughed as they dug, shoveled, and covered something over. My hands trembled as I hit record on my phone. This wasn't just HOA pettiness anymore. This was criminal. When I reviewed the clip the next morning, something stuck out. A faint sound I'd missed live. I ran the audio through editing software and sharpened it. There it was, a muffled voice, desperate, crying, "Help! Please, I'm still down here." My stomach dropped. The timestamp matched the exact moment Karen and her accomplice were tamping dirt back into the pit. This wasn't a prank. It was a burial. I called the police back and showed them the evidence. This time they came equipped, shovels, gloves, backup, and cordoned off the scene. They dug with care for nearly 3 hours before finding her, alive, filthy, trembling. Her wrists were zip-tied, her mouth taped, but she was breathing. I watched through the window, hands numb. Karen was handcuffed on the spot, yelling that the woman had trespassed and violated HOA codes. The other woman bolted before officers could reach her. The rescued woman's name was Ellie. She'd tried to leave the HOA 3 months earlier, much like I had. Karen claimed Ellie was out of compliance, then methodically cut off her water, then power, and finally Ellie vanished. Neighbors assumed she'd moved away. She hadn't. She'd been kept in Karen's garage until last night when Karen apparently decided to bury her for good. The idea of an HOA president tied to attempted murder stunned the cops and within hours made national headlines. Reporters swarmed our street. Neighbors feigned shock, though I could tell many were scared, afraid of what they'd missed or worse, what they might have done. The HOA issued a tepid statement about internal reviews and unexpected behavior. But the fallout didn't stop there. While Karen sat in jail awaiting trial, my house kept getting HOA violation notices slipped under the door. One night I saw someone prowling by the garage. Not Karen, the other woman from the footage. She caught my eye, grinned, and hissed, "You shouldn't have dug." Karen behind bars didn't equal safety. After seeing that accomplice in my yard, I realized this ran deeper than one power-hungry neighbor. I needed answers, not revenge. So I made a choice. I'd break into Karen's house to find them. At 2:45 a.m., I slipped through her side gate. The front was swarmed with police tape, but the basement entry in the back was unguarded. I picked the lock. Inside the house was dim, stale with bleach and mildew. At first, the basement looked ordinary until I found a padlocked door beneath the stairs. The key had been tucked behind a fake electrical outlet. I opened it and discovered a concrete corridor lined from floor to ceiling with files. Case files, but not ordinary ones. These were dossiers. Each folder had a neighbor's name, photo, finances, and secrets. Karen had been collecting blackmail material for years, spying on everyone in Willow Creek Estates. There was even a file with my name on it. Inside were screenshots of my emails, a photo of my car parked half an inch over the sidewalk, and a sticky note that read, "Target refuses to join. Apply pressure." My blood ran cold. That's when I heard footsteps upstairs. Someone else was here. I switched off my phone light and crouched behind a shelf, barely breathing. The footsteps came closer. Then I saw her, the accomplice, Sandra. She muttered to herself, "Karen wouldn't want this place found. Not yet." She walked to the far wall, pressed something, and a hidden panel slid open. My heart nearly stopped. Behind it was a narrow white room, sterile, padded, and soundproof. Inside were chains, cuffs, and a metal chair bolted to the floor. It wasn't an office. It was a holding cell. That's when the horrifying truth hit me. Ellie wasn't the first, and I wasn't supposed to be the last. I recorded everything on my phone, shaking so hard I could barely hold it still. Then I slipped out and ran home. The next morning, I went straight to Detective Morales. He watched the footage without saying a word, his jaw tightening with every second. Finally, he said, "This just escalated from assault to full-blown conspiracy. Within hours, Karen's property was swarmed again. They arrested Sandra trying to flee the state. But what they found next was worse than anything I'd imagined. Investigators pulled data from Karen's old laptop and uncovered a full map of the neighborhood. Each house was labeled with names, strange symbols, and bright red X's across 6 homes, including mine. Each X had a note beside it: non-compliant, remove. Karen's trial exploded across national news. The courtroom was standing room only, not just with press, but with neighbors who once worshipped her. People who'd followed her every HOA decree like gospel now sat pale and silent, terrified of what would come out. Karen walked in wearing cuffs and that same smug grin, as if she were the one still in charge. Sandra sat stone-faced, refusing to speak. But the prosecution didn't need her. They had everything: my video footage, the files from Karen's basement, Ellie alive and ready to testify, and a shocking discovery about the HOA itself. Karen hadn't just gone rogue. She had revived an old, voided neighborhood charter from the 1970s, a document that had never been officially deleted. It granted absolute authority to the HOA president, including surveillance rights, home entry for community safety, and, chillingly, a clause allowing temporary detainment of non-compliant residents. It was meant as legal jargon, symbolic, but Karen took it literally. She used that outdated power to justify her own twisted rule, turning community regulation into abduction and control. Ellie's pit wasn't unique. It was one of several compliance measures. 6 residents had been marked for removal. Ellie was the only one found alive. The others, the ones marked with red X's, were never confirmed dead or alive. Just moved out. When Karen took the stand, she didn't deny anything. She didn't even look remorseful. She looked proud. "Order requires sacrifice," she said calmly. "If they'd just followed the rules, none of this would have been necessary." Her voice never shook. The jury needed less than 2 hours. Guilty on every count: kidnapping, attempted murder, conspiracy, illegal surveillance, abuse of power. The judge handed her 97 years. Sandra got 40. The HOA was dissolved by the county, its assets liquidated, its name scrubbed from public records, but the neighborhood never truly recovered. Some families packed up and left overnight, unable to live with the memories. Others pretended nothing had happened, mowing lawns and smiling as if they hadn't once handed Karen their trust or their keys. As for me, I stayed. I filled the pit, planted a tree where it once gaped like an open wound. Every morning I sit by the same window with a cup of coffee, eyes on the quiet street. just in case someone tries to bring the HOA back, because power like that doesn't die. It just waits for the next Karen. Subscribe for more twisted, real-life stories like this. If you thought this was wild, wait until you hear about the neighbor who faked his own death to dodge HOA fees and came back with a flamethrower.